let's get this shit fired up. Step number one, let's clean our screen. I'm very nearly out of multi-purpose Windex with ammonia. I think it's with ammonia, or is it with vinegar? Might be with bleach. It's got something. It's got some special fucking ingredient that makes it better. Quote unquote better. Well, let's go ahead and clean that screen. That's taken care of. And now, get my glove, get my stylus, and let's talk landscapes. I've been working a lot on landscapes. If you've been watching my social media at all over the course of the past however long, past week. There we go. That's better. Let's get a slightly wider field of vision on this so you can actually fucking see. All right, so we need a new image. Now, I've been working on landscapes, and the way that this works is I do everything in kind of layers. Let me come down here to the background, and I'm going to pull out a new layer. I'll pull out about 7 new layers, in fact. And typically what I do is I still have like the whole palette thing going on. I'll drag the palette down here. I'll drag it into the reference folder. So this is kind of what we're going to be working with here, and it all starts off, you got to say, what color is my sky going to be? And the sky is going to be somewhere in this blue to cyan range, usually. So we're going to take something right in around here. We're going to pick something fairly saturated. And the sky is different in different parts of the United States, different parts of the world, in fact. And largely what dictates the color of the sky is, A, your latitude. How close to the poles are you? And B, your position on the landmass, as in how close to the sea are you? Okay? A coastal sky is different from an inland sky, and both of those are different from an island sky. All of these things are a little bit different, and kind of the basic rule of thumb is that if you're in a kind of island situation where you're sort of like out in the middle of the ocean, you get this sort of sea green color to the sky. It gets much more into the green area. Whereas if you're in a coastal location, you get something that's in more of a blue, but it's still kind of cyan. And as you go farther inland, you get more and more of this actual like sky blue color like this. But then once again, it depends on your location in terms of latitude, because as you go farther north, things get more vivid. They get to be darker and deeper. And you get these kind of very deep blues. Is the kind of thing that when you get inland, in turn, you get into Montana, stuff starts looking like this. The big sky is like, that's a real thing. But we don't have to worry too much about that. Just pick something that looks good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with something like this. Actually, let me take that farther in. There we go. And get yourself a good color for the main sky. I would like this a little bit darker. And make sure that it's fairly saturated, okay? And I'm using a soft airbrush to do this, and it's a very, very large airbrush. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to gradually pull the hue closer to green as I pull the color, as I desaturate it and lighten it up. And I'm just going to do another band of color right there. I'm going to make this a little bit less large. And we're just going to keep doing that. I'm doing this on the palette layer, and I shouldn't be doing this on the palette layer. Let's start that over here. Let's start out with this right here. And I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to kind of go. I'm going to use my little line tool, and I'm going to go. There's the color I'm going to work with to start. And then we're going to pull it in, and we're going to pull it a little bit less saturated and lighter. So we're going to go to that. And we're going to do about 5 bands of color. So we're going to pull it a little farther in. And we're going to pull it a little farther in. And we're going to pull it a little farther in. Like so. And that is going to be our kind of sky colors. Now, in addition, we are going to need some clouds. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take all of these, okay? And we're going to take them all, and we're going to pull the saturation and lightness way down on them so that we have some cloud colors. And what we're doing on this is we're just kind of getting all of these different hues together. But we're going to use these for cloud shading. So we want it to be very close to white, but not actually white until you get all the way to the end, and then you do want it almost white, like so. So there are our various, this one is kind of a little bit too saturated, I think. Let's desaturate that a bit more. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our sky colors and we've got our various cloud colors, and then we'll worry about like mountains and land and all of that a little bit later. But we've got those on our palette. And here's our background, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to retitle this Sky. So we're going to start with our sky, and we're going to use the airbrush, the soft airbrush, and we're going to start with this kind of dark blue color, and we're just going to put a band across the top. Now what we're thinking in terms of is we want to know where our horizon line is. So let's just pull down a marker. We'll just say, okay, our horizon line is going to be down around here. So that's where we want our 5th color to be, which means we want our 2nd color to come down right around here, and we want to just kind of do that all the way across. Then our 3rd color is going to be right around the middle, right here, right about halfway between the top of the paper, top of the image rather, and the horizon. And then we're going to come a little bit farther down. And then we're going to come the rest of the way down. All right, get all the way down to our horizon line. And we're going to go back up and across to make sure that we get good coverage. And once we've got those 5 bands, you can see that we've got some, funnily enough, banding. So we're going to come down to our blending brush. We're going to pick the blur, and we're going to take a very large blurring brush, and we're just going to go back and forth across it. There you go, top to bottom, and we're going to smooth those out. We are just going to smooth out these bands that we've got. And it looks like we're going to need to come in here and do a little more blending up here. We'll blur that in. Still got a little banding up here. Can't really be helped, but let's Let's blend that a little bit. Take that down, then go back to our blur, and we'll smooth all of that out. Now that we've done that, we're going to come to our next level up, and why is that on the guide layer? That's not supposed to be on the guide layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this, and we're going to cut and paste. Our guide copy, it doesn't actually have the guides on it, so we're going to retitle that Sky. We'll retitle this Clouds. Remove that K. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work with our cloud layer here. And we're going to come over once again to our airbrush. We're going to work with a hard airbrush. And we're going to take this down pretty low. Now, because the horizon is down here, things that are closer to us are going to be farther above the horizon if they're at the same height. So our farthest clouds are going to be like way out here. Okay. And we're just going to kind of do little scribbly bits. And we're going to try and soften up the edges and make them nice and round. And there's a cloud. And then we can come over here and we can grab something close to that color. And we'll just go, all right, we're going to shade that in. And give it some volume, just kind of going around the edges in there. And then once again, we're going to come up here and we're going to go, all right, once again in white. And we're going to do a slightly larger cloud. That is a little bit higher up. Just a little bit, though. We don't want to be too much higher up. And here, I'm working behind the, because I'm working behind the palette, I can't really see what I'm doing. So I'm just working by feel. And again, I'm going to take that color and we're going to just kind of give it some form and body. Okay? I'm going to go to our white and we're going to come a little bit closer. Now up here, we're going to do a fairly large brush. We're going to take that up here. We're going to have it go right up off the page, like so. We can deselect. And then we can take that and we can shade that in a bit. We'll use the soft airbrush for this. Let's switch back to the hard to give it a little bit more shape and form. Now, this isn't a great job because I'm not very good at this. Let's do something over here. We're going to go a little bit larger right here. Up here, we want to, once again, kind of and then here, we want to shade that in a little bit. And we're going to continue doing this kind of thing until it kind of feels like we've got a reasonable collection of clouds. So there we've got some kind of clouds right there. Let's use our blur a little bit in here. Kind of soften that just a touch. Use the blend to okay. So there we've got kind of a cloud layer. And then the next layer in front of this, we are going to jump in and we're going to do some mountains. Now, mountains can be all kinds of colors. They typically tend to go into the blue and purple range right here. I'm going to do something that's kind of a lightish blue, like this. And we want to work with a fairly hard brush, and we just want to kind of throw those in right here. So there are kind of our mountains, and we are now going to use the brush, or the bucket rather, to fill that in. And there's our mountains. Now, we're going to come back up here to our palette layer, and we're going to start with this purple. And we're going to take that purple and we're going to pull the color into deeper blue. And we're going to get ourselves a kind of a shadow color. And then we're going to pull it up here a bit, and we're going to pull it into a lighter color. So we have kind of a highlighty thing, and we want to then get a little bit more highlighty, like say right about there. And then we want to get really highlighty, like almost white, because we're talking about snow-capped kind of mountains here. Now, mostly what I'm talking about here is my technique and how I am doing this stuff, and this is me talking through it and going, this is the process that I go through. It doesn't necessarily produce great results, but it is what I'm working with lately. Now we're going to take this up to a slightly larger size, and I'm going to use my cell shading brush, which has hard edges, but is just kind of transparent. And we're just going to sort of shade in. We're going to trace the contours here, and we want those contours to be more evident toward the bottom, okay? Because we're shading, so we want, as it goes lower, we want it to be darker. That's the same thing over here. This, once again, we want all of this to kind of come downward. And we want it to be darker on the bottom than it is on the top. Once again, with our cell shading brush. And the cell shading brush is just 10% is just a 20% opaque is what I've got it set to. Which means that's all the more opaque it gets. Like if I scribble with it, it doesn't get darker. It doesn't get any darker than the 20% opaque that it is. Okay? This is what makes it distinct from the airbrush. The airbrush, if I scribble with it, it gets darker. Okay? It starts out fairly light. You can see here, it's not very stark or bright, but as I scribble with it, it gets more and more opaque. Whereas with the cell shading brush that I created, I can scribble with it and it doesn't get opaque. But if I go over it again, it does get more opaque. And because it's 20%, if I go over it 5 times, that takes it to fully opaque. And I can go over it 7 and 8 and 9 times, and it doesn't get any more opaque than that. That's all the farther it gets. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 is about the same as if it was fully opaque in the first place. And if I go over it a 6th time, you see it doesn't change. See, 6 doesn't do anything more than that, because it's all just kind of adding up, one thing on top of the next. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of fading it, and I'm deciding which mountains are in front of which mountains. And these are the shadows of the mountain. So obviously we also want to do highlights. And to do highlights, we just choose a lighter color. And again, you trace the contour. Is trace the contour of the mountain. But here, it's kind of the opposite. Because what you want is, you want this to be more evident up toward the top, not toward the bottom. We kind of fuzz that in, and now as we go even brighter, we're going to go smaller on this brush so we can do kind of finer details. And it looks like these are higher up than the existing, and you can do additional sort of detail as you go. I'm not very good at this, again, but we just want to kind of make that look more interesting. And then finally we go to the pure white, and again, this one's a smaller brush. And that's mostly up toward the top. And we're tracing the contour as we come down. So once you've kind of done that, once you've kind of gone through all of that, we now want to kind of highlight the back shaded side as well, because light is hitting it in all kinds of different directions. Again, just trace the contour of the mountain. I'm just going to add a little bit more detail here. And once you've got that, at this point, we want to take this layer and we want to lock the alpha. And after we've locked the alpha on it, we're going to take a very pale sky color. We're going to take the fourth color that we used for highlighting clouds, and we're going to use the soft airbrush, very large, and we're just going to kind of lightly fade this out. Did I do a whole bunch of stuff on the palette layer? I did, didn't I? Okay, so let's move to our selection. Make a rectangular selection. Select all of this. We will cut and paste. And we will take the palette copy and we'll drag it on down here. And we'll turn off the alpha protect on both of these. And we're going to take this one here. We're going to merge it down. Now, having merged that down, let's check and make sure. Yep, we got everything in there. Let's deselect, and now we'll take this and we'll alpha protect. Working on the wrong layer is like, it's a constant problem. You run into it all the time. But we're going to come back to our soft airbrush. And we're just going to come in here and we're just going to kind of lightly go over it. And we want this kind of atmospheric effect to get more pronounced down toward the bottom, so you can't really see where the work you did ends, where the detail work you did ends. And we want this sort of atmospheric effect to fade things out, but to leave it semi-visible. And it's okay if it's kind of streaky, because that's kind of how this atmospheric effect looks. So now we're going to move down to our next layer, and on this one, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our ground and our grass and our dirt and all of that sort of thing. And I like to start with a kind of deep blue. And I start with this deep blue because this deep blue kind of identifies like dark areas where there's really nothing. And we're going to use our line brush, and we're going to establish that's going to be kind of the underlying color. Then we come up here to orange, which is almost directly opposite blue. And we're going to do a kind of a deep brown like this. That's going to be our dirt color right there. And then we're going to need a kind of deep green. So we're going to do a deep green, but we want that deep green to be kind of bluish. Okay. Let's take it right around here. And then we want to go a little bit around that. We want to go more saturated and brighter. And then we want to pull that up a little bit more. And again, more saturated and brighter. And finally, we take things up until it's almost yellow, more saturated and brighter. Okay, now that's going to be our kind of ground palette right there. And we're going to begin by roughing out where exactly the ground is going to be. And we come down here. First of all, let's unprotect that alpha. We'll come down here to layer 2. Now here, let's go, let's rename this mountains. And then this one, the background, because it is the farthest back. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a fairly simple contour of the land. And we want it to be right around here, right around the space that the atmospheric effect ends. Okay? So it's just below the horizon. And now we're going to come over here to our bucket and we're going to fill in that area underneath. And it doesn't actually matter that we've got these little bits here, but if they bother you, and they do, of course, bother me, if they bother you, you can come in and you can clean that up. You can also set the settings on your paint bucket so this doesn't happen in the first place, but I forgot to do that. And I don't feel like going back and redoing it. So, yeah. I will just clean that up. And having done that, we are now going to come in and we're going to use our soft airbrush. And we're going to take our ground right here. And we're going to protect alpha again Because what we don't want is we don't want our ground going up into the mountains. That's not going to look right at all. So we're going to start here, and we're just going to go along the top, and we're going to go, yeah, that's dirt right there. That's definitely dirt. And we're going to have more dirt farther down. That's dirt. There's kind of a crease in the land right there. And you're going to get all of your dirt in place. And you just want to make this look like it's all dirt. But it's okay if it's kind of mottled. If there are thin places, if there are areas where it's kind of dark, and we've done this in blue, not black, so it looks more organic. And now you see that we've got kind of some kind of contour to the land here. Now we're going to take that and we're going to go over it and we're going to say, okay, so there's some grass on the dirt. There's grass growing here. And we're going to put in the grass, which again, we're doing with the airbrush, and we're just kind of going in and saying grass, 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 but it's not 100% all the way. Let's wait while we save the file there. Auto recovery is a good idea. And once you get all of your grass in there, you're going to come in here and you're going to say, okay, now we're going to do a lighter grass. We're going to use a substantially smaller brush, and we're going to do just the highest parts of the grass. Which, again, we're using kind of a light touch in here. Let's go a little bit larger than this. I want this to come like pretty much up to the top, but we still want to keep this kind of contour thing going on. And then we're going to do that once again. Pull our size down a bit. I'm going to do just the uplying. And finally, we're going to do this brightest yellowish kind of thing here. Finally, we have something approximating a grassy field. Now, I want these to be kind of wide and thin and narrow, because what we're going to do up here on this next layer is we're going to put another bit of ground. And we're going to still work with this, but we are going to pull this blue a little bit higher up. We're going to hue shift it. And this goes on our palette layer. So we're going to hue shift that a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to hue shift this a little bit more yellow. And we're going to hue shift this here again. A little more yellow. Hue shift a little more yellow. Doesn't have to be a big deal. You just want to get it a little bit more to the yellow side there. And now we're going to go through and we're going to do basically the same process. And we want to come fairly high up here, okay? But we want there to be a bit more character to this area. We want there to be some more detail. Now we're going to come over here to our bucket, and we're going to go tolerance 15. Where to go? Ooh, no. That was yeah, that didn't work out well at all. And And I have once again done that on the palette layer. Yeah. So go back to our lines. We haven't closed that gap there, and that's that issue. We haven't closed that gap there. That's that issue. How that works. There we are. And now we will take that and we will again book select, cut and paste. We're going to pull that copy down here and we're going to rename that midground. We're going to deselect and we're going to go protect alpha. And it's the same basic process. We just go, okay. Here's our soft airbrush. We're going to come in here and we're going to go, there's our ground right there. There's our ground right there. There's our ground right there. And that's high ground. We're going to come down from that. We're going to come down from that. We're going to put some high ground here, a little high ground here, some there. And you're just kind of filling this in. You want it to come all the way up. You want to get some space in there, but you want to have a sort of mottled, uneven sort of approach. And then once again, we move to our grass. And again, the high ground first. Now, at this point, this is where things get a little bit fussy, because what you want to do is you want to switch back to your line brush, and we're going to unprotect the alpha. We're going to scroll in a bit, and we're going to start adding a kind of, I do some little sprays of grass coming off of this. I'm kind of an expert about it, but you only want to do a couple of them, and now you want to zoom back out. And having zoomed back out, those are way too big. The thing that you want to do is you want to just kind of have little bits of grass coming out here and there. Just little bits, because we're kind of far back. I've done some experimenting with using the finger smudge brush on this, but that hasn't worked out terribly well. Once we've done this, we are going to alpha protect again, and we're going to go to our next layer, and you can see here that as we do this, we're also going to kind of shade in little bits of that grass that we did. Now we're going to go a little bit brighter again. High ground. A little bit smaller. And we're going to do a little bit farther down here. And then, did we leave off here or here? We left off here. Okay. Once again, a little bit smaller. And we get a little bit more. A little bit more character there. Now, we're going to back up here. We're going to go a little bit darker, and we're just going to go back to our line brush, and we're going to do some little bits of grass. And we're going to back up one more, and we're going to do some bits of grass here. Little bits of grass. There. And that'll give us kind of a feel that there is grass all over the place, even though we haven't drawn a whole lot of grass. Now we're going to come up here to the next layer. Now again, we're going to take all of these and we're going to go a little bit. A little bit more. And we're going to just continue doing that. We're going to just go a little bit more yellow. Just a little bit. A little more yellow. A little more yellow. A little more yellow. A little more yellow. Now you can see that there's all of this kind of blends in together. We're going to come back over here to our background, and we're going to once again take one of these highlight colors here. We're going to go to our soft airbrush. We're going to go fairly large again, and we're just going to kind of do a little atmospheric thing. And give that some depth. And we're going to do the same thing up here with the next one. Up here, we're going to do the same thing on the midground. And we're going to go, here's kind of an atmospheric effect going over top of this. But not as much toward the top. And now we're going to take our next layer here. And we're going to start with our deep blue. And again, we're just going to come in here and we're going to go we're going to put our little setup there. We're going to go to our bucket, refer only to editing layer. There we've got it. Our line, we'll go back over this. Now, because we're going over this multiple times, much of this is going to be covered up by the added layers. But I get funky about this stuff. Now, again, we protect the alpha. So we're protecting the alpha channel, and this is actually layer 3, right? All right. I remember to do that. We go back to our large soft airbrush, and we go high ground, high ground, high ground, high ground, high ground. And you just want to kind of come out from the high ground every time. So you give it a sort of a contour. That's the thought process anyway. I don't know how well that works. And this is going to come all the way down right here. And then we're going to come in here again. Here's our grass. Hit the high ground, the high ground, high ground, high ground, high ground, and just kind of drag it on down in. Get ourselves some actual texture going on there. Next layer in. Remember the direction of your light. As you get lighter, you want your light to be more on the side that you lit the mountains from. You want to be thinking in terms of that as you go. And we just continue to go a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. Hello? We already did that. Yeah. Again. High ground. I'll stick to just the lightest parts right there. And then as we get to the absolute lightest parts, I'm going to switch to our hard airbrush. And back to the soft. Move that in. And then once again, we want to turn off our alpha. I want to kind of jump back over to our line, and now we want to add in some little bits of grass. These should be larger, more prominent, because they're closer. I am not very good at this. I am not claiming to be, but I have got a process, and that process is producing some results that I find to be an improvement. So we go a little bit brighter on this. A little bit brighter still. And then finally, as you can probably guess, we do a little atmospheric effect. And we go to our soft line brush, soft airbrush, very high, and just kind of go over top of that, like so. And this is the process I have been using to do landscapes, and I'm not sure how helpful it is or how much people are going to benefit from it. But I do feel like it's made some improvements to how my stuff looks. And that's just kind of off the top of my head. And it took, holy crap, about 50 minutes to do. But yeah, that's all real time. There's no speed up. Well, you could tell there's no speed up because, I mean, come on, like, how would that have been sped up? But And all of this is done with stock brushes. I'm not doing any of this with like weird custom shit. And there's a lot of custom stuff. I do have grass brushes. I just feel like it's kind of cheating to use them. And I'm trying to learn how to do this without the grass brushes. The grass that I'm scattering around, I don't feel like it looks that good. Where is that bit of yellow? Which layer is that on? It's on that layer? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my line brush. I'll pull that off of there. There we go. That looks better. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm working with on landscapes. I feel like this is a dramatic improvement from where I started. I feel like it's getting better. I'm still not very happy with it. Now, I do feel like one of the things I need to do is I need to put more variation in the ground. I need to be able to put rocks on the ground and put trees in there and stuff like that. And I'm not doing that yet because I'm just kind of concentrating on this, laying down the core foundation. And I don't know that I'm doing a very good job on the core foundation, but I feel like I've got something, and what I've got is an improvement. And I feel like I kind of understand what the steps are and what the things that I'm doing are and how to make this better and how to make it. I feel like I know what the next steps are, which is a dramatic change from where I've been before. And this may be the single most useful Sketch Weekly episode I've done in ever. So, yeah, hit the like button and all of that shit. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all of that happy horse shit. And hit the little bell icon if you want to hear about more of this shit from me. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as landscape. You can see here that I've got a whole bunch of landscapes I've been doing. This one is number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9. And I don't know. I think maybe I will do a big Tumblr post about this. I've tried doing Blue Sky threads. I don't feel like Blue Sky is very artist friendly. You know, I feel like that's more politics and shit. So I don't know. I think I'm going to stick to putting this stuff on Tumblr. So you should definitely follow me on Tumblr if that's a thing that you're into. And yeah, okay, bye.